And I've heard it before, is that concept of weak men. So weak men cheat, weak men lie. Damn. I don't believe that there are any weak men. Any man that has ever believed that he is a weak man, I'm offering this to you, is that if you've been on some type of journey as a husband, as a father, digging into the depth of your masculinity as a man, then you have absolutely heard the concept that, let me pull up the exact quote is as follows. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. And I've heard it before, and the thing that pops out to me is that concept of being weak men. And before I got into this journey as a coach for men, for married businessmen, for men that are really looking to become more effective in how they show up in their relationships and their lives, I used to walk around with that idea of like, oh, well, this is what it means to be a real man, and this is what it means to be a weak man, and this is what it means to be a strong man, and this is what it means to be all these different, aspects of like these perceptions of men. And so, and for this, I pulled up a couple of lists of traits that identify weak men. So I'm going to read you some items from this list. So weak men cheat. Number one, weak men lie. Weak men make no effort. Weak men cause confusion. Weak men will hear this and be offended. Weak men read this and never change. Weak men can't handle talking about the future. Weak men don't listen. Weak men don't stand up for you. Weak men don't talk about serious topics. Weak men don't take responsibility. Weak men don't make plans. They always wait for you. Weak men have no drive or goals. Weak men lack emotion. Weak man is selfish. Weak man is all talk, never takes action. Weak man has a temper. Weak men are people pleasers. Weak men have no growth or self-development or healing. Weak men are insecure. Damn. These are really intense lists. The idea of this is what it means to be a weak man. And when it comes to the concept of being a weak man, there are so many people that will jump on the bandwagon, that will go out with the Frankenstein, the picket signs and the pitchforks, and they'll start marching on down with weak men, and weak men are the problem with the world, and weak men are the reason that we have all these different things, and weak men this, and weak men that, and weak men this, and weak men that. And then what that does is essentially it creates this battle between guys who are who perceive themselves as strong men and guys who perceive themselves as weak men. So then it basically creates like a man war. It's like, I'm not weak and I'm strong. And then that, somebody goes out and then they're strong, or they're doing all these different things. Or it creates this really weird, messed up dynamic that essentially doesn't solve any problems. I told somebody the other day, this guy, he asked me a question on a social media post that I put up, and I could tell in his writing that he was trying to be right. And I said, my brother, I hear you. And in my quest, in my pursuit on this planet, I'm no longer trying to be right. As a matter of fact, when somebody works with me, I tell them that it is not my job to be right. They go, what? What you mean? I don't have any dog in the fight of being right. If it's not my job to be right, then whose job is it? That's what I say. And then I wait and they go, well, I guess it's my job. I said, yeah, it is your job to be right. And I'm going to invite you into a higher level thought. What if you didn't have to play the game of good, bad, right, and wrong? And you could only play the game of effective or ineffective. So I don't play the game of good, bad, right, wrong. I play the game of effective, ineffective. Let me break it down to you in simple terms. Does it work or does it not work based on who you want to be in the world? If you believe that it is your job to identify what makes a weak man, if you believe that it is your job to identify or to delineate the aspects of what makes a weak man, then you will be able to find different ways to describe it. And you will be right. that those are the characteristics that make a weak man. And the question is, does that make things better? Are you trying to be right, or are you trying to make things better? Because if your intention is to be right, then you're right. You are correct. Those are the things that make a man weak. And I used to think some of the same things about my father. I could look at these lists and I go, oh, you know what? Yet my father was a weak man. And I would go, yep, he's weak. He's a weak man. Here's the reason that he's a weak man is because of this and this and this and this. And he was a weak. And I'm looking at the list and I could just change out weak with father. I could replace it and I could go, yep, these are all the things that I would label and identify as the traits that my father had until I stopped trying to be right. And then I said, well, does it actually work? And then when I got into my work as a man, when I got into the depth of who I am as a man, when I started getting coached, when I started getting the personal development work, when I started doing my own healing process, I came to the realization that actually, I don't believe that there's any such thing as a weak man. I do not believe that there is a thing as a weak man. You go, what do you mean that there's no thing as a weak man? I know tons of weak men. I know men that are like this and like this and like this. And if you see yourself doing this, this is not about identifying someone. This is about externalizing your own pain. This is an exercise in your own pain. You're basically showing yourself that you are going through pain right now. Just letting you know. Right now, that they're like this and this and this and this and this. He's like this and he's like that. And it's like, oh, damn, that's my pain. That's my pain. Yeah, maybe there isn't such thing as a weak man. And there are people who go, no, there's tons of things that are weak men. And there's guys that will look, big buff guys, and they'll go, no, of course there's such a thing as weak men. Of course there will be such a thing as, of course there's a weak man. Of course there are weak men. Of course there are, because weak men are the reason that society and that politics and religion and that and all of this kind of stuff. And that's the reason. And you'll get it from men. You'll get it from women. You'll get it from all different types of people. And you'll see a drill sergeant doing it. And you'll see a police captain do it. You'll see an army soldier do it. And everybody will like weak men, weak men, weak men, weak men. And you'll get all these people out here and they'll talk about all these different things associated with men, but none of it will actually change anything. How many times have you gone up to somebody who's obese, called them fat, and seen them 2 years later and they've lost all of the weight? How many times have you seen, the obesity epidemic increases by the day, by the minute. If calling people fat changed things, then you would see a marked decrease in the obesity epidemic, but you don't. Calling somebody stupid made them want to get smart, then you would see a decrease in, you would see the rate of American education increasing. And I would imagine many people have different reasons why the American rate of education it does not increase. But my point is that if you could literally just label people by the negative term associated with the way that you perceive them, then why is it not absolutely increasing everything or making things better? Look, I'm not out here to be right. I'm out here actually to create an environment that works. I'm going to read this list again, and then I'm going to tell you what exists outside of a weak man. Weak men can't handle talking about the future. Weak men don't listen. Weak men don't stand up for you. Weak men don't talk about serious topics. Weak men don't take responsibility. Weak men don't make plans. Weak men don't have driver goals. Weak men lack emotion. Weak men are selfish. Weak men are talk and don't take action. Weak men have tempers. Weak men don't feel supported. They'll make you feel supported. Weak men are people pleasers. Weak men don't have growth, self-development, or healing. And then I come to the realization, it's not weak men. It's wounded. I don't believe that there are any weak men. I believe that every man has a level, is either potent or impotent or impotent. He's either in his potency or he's not in his potency, impotent. So if a man is impotent, he's not in his potency, but his potency exists. He just hasn't tapped into his potency. And he hasn't tapped into his potency for many different reasons. But a man who is disconnected from his potency is wounded. My father wasn't a weak man. He was a wounded man. That man that you see who doesn't talk about the future and doesn't listen, he doesn't stand up for you, doesn't talk about serious topics. He's not weak. He's wounded. He's, he has a temper and you don't feel supported. He's a people pleaser. He's not weak. He's wounded. That man is not weak. He is wounded. And when a wounded man, like a wounded animal, they retaliate. If an animal is wounded and it's in a protection mode and it's backed into a corner, what does a wounded animal do? It's going to do everything it can to survive. It's going to either be overly assertive or aggressive, or it's just going to wilt away and it's just going to curl up in a corner and die. And that's what happens with many men. They end up in this every man has potency. God would not have created a man if embedded in his DNA was weakness. That is not how God works. Every man carries a level and degree of potency, pound for pound. Every man is not, look, I'm 6'8", I weigh 280 pounds, 70 pounds. I'm pound for pound, I operate in a certain weight class. But every man operates in a certain weight class based on his size and his experience of life and his experience of the world, his experience of anything that he's doing. So pound for pound, men just operate in different weight classes. So you don't judge a heavyweight to a lightweight. You don't judge somebody who's had a significant amount of experience to somebody else and then determine that individual is weak. That individual is wounded. I was wounded. And when you go through a healing process as a man, it gives you the awareness that you can actually turn your potency on. It's a dial. It's just that sometimes society and all the stuff is caked in. And some people's, when it comes to a dial, some people have gone and you know what? And they've been like, I'm just going to stay so wounded. I'm going to break off the button so the button's not even there. And then you don't even have the attachment to fit into it. And you don't have the right things. So unless you get a monkey wrench or a screwdriver and you try to pry it, it's not going to turn. Some men have permanently encapsulated themselves, not permanently, but have decided that they are going to stay in that wound. Some men have decided that they're going to leave the rust on the knob so that you can't turn the knob, so that the knob does not allow them to tap into their potency, that they're going to stay defensive and reactive and not shift into being responsive and proactive and responsible. There are no such thing as weak men. For sure, there are wounded men. And when a wounded man realizes that he's wounded because his potency is off, he has lost his potency. And by potency, I mean, there are penetrative elements associated with men outside of their penis. But when a man is operating in his masculine essence, there is a penetrative quality to his essence, to his energy. His energy can pierce things. His energy has the ability to break down barriers. His energy has the ability to galvanize. His energy has the ability to erect things. His energy has the ability to inspire. His energy has the ability to make things move. When a man has lost his potency, he becomes impotent. But God did not create men that don't have the ability to go from impotent to potent. It just means that you have to turn the knob on, and that's your healing process. Every man has to go through a healing process. And then once you go through a healing process, like you go through a fitness process, look, some guys go through a healing process the same way they go through a fitness process. They're like, I'm going to do a diet. I'm going to read a book and I'm going to see it and see if it works. 92% of diets don't work because it doesn't come with a lifestyle change. It has to come with a lifestyle change. So when this man who realizes that he may have cheated, he may have lied, he may have done these different things, and he has he's gone through this process of auditing himself, identifying these areas of his life that are out of alignment, coming to the realization that there's a deeper and more potent aspect of himself that he'd like to tap into. Then he gets into a healing journey. He doesn't do it like Atkins or like Weight Watchers or something like that. He goes, I'm trying to tap into the deepest essence of my masculinity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this with the intention that I'm going to go into this and I'm never going to get out of it. My intention is to take my potency, bring it online, and keep it online so that I can live in the fullness of what it means for me to be a man. It is that level of intention that transitions and transforms a man. But I will tell you this, and this goes for any man who has ever heard that he is a weak man or even in his own mind has believed it. Any man that has ever believed that he is a weak man, I'm offering this to you is that, my brother, you are not weak. God doesn't create weak men. God would not have made specifically you with an error. You are not an error in creation. You may have lost your potency. You may be in a space where you are impotent, but the transition from impotent to potent, to turning on your potency is about stepping into your healing process. And when you step into your healing process and then allow that to guide and to create the fullness and the richness and the depth of who you get to be as a man walking this world, you will never want to live without this potency ever again. This is the work that all men get to be up to. And when I deal with men who are very successful and elite, and men who have this heightened level of potency, especially in your work, but don't have that level of potency in the context of your home, then there's an incongruence. It lives in you. It just means that there's a depth that needs to be approached in your life so that it exists everywhere you go. There are no weak men. There are only wounded men. And for the men who may identify himself or may believe at times that he is weak, or the man who realizes that he is living in his potency and that wants to actualize it and bring it online and take it to the next level, this is an opportunity for you to choose to step up your game, raise the bar, and live as the fullness of a man that you were designed to be. This is the moment. Sign up for the next All In Masterclass. Get the free download so that you can be a part of step into realizing what it really takes to go all in your life. And make sure that you subscribe to this channel so that you can start to learn more about who you get to be when a man truly goes through his healing process so he can become the man that he knows that he was born to be. There are no weak men. There are only wounded men. Catch you on the next episode of Going All In. Firestarter out. Fuego.